wiki. So I said to myself after my stream from last night that I wouldn't do that again, because it was like I decided I'll just take notes on the summaries on the wiki, because it will take so long to rewatch the whole thing. But now I'm like, I rewatched the episode when I was walking my dog, and I found myself really interested in rewatching it because there's so much in the early episodes, way more than I realized as an awful season 1 watcher who didn't even realize what was going on. Oh my god, so much happened, so much is happening in the episodes. So I just finished, oh my god, how do I, I don't know. But yeah, okay. I just finished the episode First Aid, Mag 12, and I remember Jared. Why do they British people call people named Gerard Jared for some reason? I hate them. Okay. But I remembered that Jared showed up again in this episode, and when I watched it for the first time I was like, what? Look at this continuity. But then and then a bunch of things happened, like the eyes tattooed all over his body, which connects with I have, okay, my notes, okay, this was what got me. Okay, I'll talk first about those eyes covering his body, protecting him from the burns, which was, there were, oh my god, okay, there was eyes on his body protecting him from the burn. There's a lighter, which we knew about, because I think Jonathan may have it later, and I was like, oh, what? That lighter sounds familiar. But so we know we know for sure now, like, he's involved with the beholding in some way. Jonathan Sims also said he died. I forgot about that. Oh my lord. But yeah, there was that. But it was the fact that, where was that episode? Episode 4, Page Turner. Cherokee painting of an eye. I like how very clearly the two things I took notes on came back. Has been burned by worse. I burst out laughing in the middle of the street when I realized, because at the end of the statement, Dominic Swain says, like, Jared, he burns the book in the waste bin, and then oh my god, there's a giant fly in my room. Ew, it's disgusting. It's disgusting. Oh my god, it's large. It's so big. What the hell? That's like gross. I have a crank fan. Oh my god. Where'd it go? I smacked it with a Puyallup Fair thing, but now I don't know where it is. That's fun. Oh, that sucks. Where is it? I'm scared. Okay. No. Okay. So, as I was saying, Dominic Swain asks. He doesn't ask, he warns him, hey, be careful, or whatever. He said something like, whoa, be careful with picking that up, you just burned something with it. And then Turkey is like, I felt worse. And then he just walks out. He's like, Jared Key is the funniest man alive. He is the funniest person on the planet. I lost it in the middle of the street. I was losing my mind because I realized what the hell he was talking about. This man was referring to the time where his whole body was covered in burns. Like he was burned from from the surface of his skin all over. He's like, I felt worse. That is so fucking funny. This guy told him, be careful picking up that trash can, and he's like, I don't think you understand how. Oh my god. Should he also save that woman's life? My lord. I've got to take note that he doesn't agree with his mother. Doesn't agree with his mother. 100%. I forgot about that. So that's very much so I did never put this. I should pay attention to the dates. They're right there. Very much confirmation that you know. I should have known this, but I just really never pay attention to dates. I'm really bad with numbers into meaning. But it took place before Page Turner. He was trusted into the care of his mother, which makes a lot of sense. At the end of what's it called? At the end of First Aid. And that's when he becomes, I don't know what I'm saying. That's when he what the fuck am I saying? Oh fuck. That's when he okay. First Aid takes place before Page Turner. I should have known that by the dates. But First Aid, he gets he's fighting a guy. There's like a crowbar, no, not a crowbar, it's a pipe that's bent. This guy's a fireman. Like I don't know what to call these people that are possessed by these, not possessed, they like follow these entities. I don't know what to call them. Are they like vessels, followers, sycophants? I don't know. I'm just gonna say followers for now. This guy's definitely I'm pretty sure it's the Desolation follower. Desolation's fire. I'm pretty sure that's correct. Desolation follower. But in the thing that made me go freaking wild was the fact that literally he name drops the Beholding and the Lightless Flame in this episode. He name drops both of them. And I like how Jonathan Sims completely tried to redirect me, and it worked because I completely forgot he mentioned the Beholding, even though that's like the most important name in the series, in episode 11. Oh my god. Because he says, quote unquote, better the Beholding than the lightless flame. Sorry. I was. Okay, my sister just came in my room to tell me about like Kaguya from Kaguya-sama Lover's War showing up in like the author's other manga, which happened like 3 weeks ago, and I already knew about. I'm like, okay, thanks. I don't know. Okay. So I was saying things. What was I saying? Let me go back to my own stream and find out what I was saying. They tried to redirect me, and it worked because I completely forgot he mentioned the beholding. Okay, that's what I was talking about. That makes sense. Because okay, I'm gonna say it again. I guess I'll leave off with from that point. Jared Key said better the beholding than the lightless flame, so he's not like, it doesn't seem like he's fully into it, even though he has like tattoos over his body and he's getting protection from this entity. But he's like a for the greater good guy. Like, I side with what's best kind of guy, which I got that vibe, I guess, because I don't know, his actions before burning the book, other things. Saving her, that's one thing. The nurse in this, the statement giver in this episode. Yeah. But yeah. He said that. I need to get back on my train of thought. He said that very important thing in episode 11, and I was like, I didn't realize that you name dropped someone very important in episode 11. And Jonathan Sims, this awful... He's my favorite character, guys. Okay, I love him. You get it. This awful asshole man focuses on the fact that he said, oh my god, I swear he focuses on the fact that he says lightless flame. I haven't... Okay, let me look at this for a minute. Let me look at this idiotic man. No, I'm sorry. He's I'm so sorry. I say it because I love him. It's fine. Better beholding than the lightless flame. Yes, Jonathan Sims points out the phrase, the lightless flame, but he does not point out beholding, which is a very important thing, Jonathan Sims. I am so upset. I am so upset that I never picked up on it. I guess it's because beholding can be a verb. You can behold things. You thought he was just speaking in tongues? No, he wasn't speaking in just cryptic language. He was naming the actual thing, you prick. My lord. I could have known the name of this thing 50 million years ago. I knew he was an eye guy. Me when I have to call people an eye guy. It's like an ass man or a tits man. He's an eye man. It's so stupid. Why did I just say that? Oh my fucking god. Oh. I could have known the name of this thing 50 million years ago. But I had to learn it from frickin' Leitner. Like 100 episodes later. Oh god. It's so crazy. This episode's like so fucking crazy, and how much they like put stuff into the story. How much both of the things that I put down for Jared K were explained in this episode. Oh my god, like 7 episodes later. That's, oh my god, Jesus Christ. I guess there's 3 things. Okay, I didn't see the middle one. The middle one is I didn't get the middle one. He's like, I felt worse. He's like, stupid. My lord, that is hilarious. Stop being so hilarious. It's not funny, Jerky. That's what he meant. That I got covered in burns all over my body. This trash can should be fine. Okay. But yeah, a bunch of shit happened. There's so many things that I'm seeing connections in that I never saw before. One being apples. Like apples. Apples and teeth. Like, I remember this episode. It's anatomy. I like anatomy class, I think. It's the one with the apples. It's the people pretending to be people. How stranger-esque of you. Fake people trying to learn how people work. And they give the shirt an apple with teeth in it. And I was like, that's so... I don't know how to... when I watched that episode, I was like, I don't know how to connect that with anything. Like apples. But I've seen like apples mentioned in other episodes, and I've seen teeth mentioned in other episodes, and I've mentioned in both of them relating to... both of them in different episodes, apples and teeth, and both of them relating to decay. So in some way. One from the Hilltop Road episode, where the guy found an apple, something to do with when he was cutting down the tree, something to do with apple. It was a trippy sequence. I don't even freaking remember. I'll have to like go through it again when I take my notes, which I think I'll be doing on my own as I listen. Not as I listen. I'll listen on my own. I'll listen on stream, but I'll do the notes on my own. I kind of do want to do notes on stream though, while I listen to things. It would make sense to do notes. I wish I paused this game. There's no pause button. Wait, can I? Let's see. Oh, there's a pause button. Okay, let's see. I'll just pause in the middle of Tetris and go over to take notes. It'll be great. It'll be fine. What episode am I watching right now? Okay, I'm finally going to be watching Alone, which is this person when they go to that graveyard. They get lost in the fog and they end up in a graveyard somewhere. Who knows? Oh, this was the first voice. It's the first vocal. Frackety, I don't know what I'm saying. The first a statement given by a real person, like as in like a separate person gives the statement. Like they it's a voice actor other than frickin' Jonathan Sims, okay? But yeah. Also, my sister told me I was being very loud at 1 a.m. last night. I didn't even think I was being that loud. Oh my god. Fine, I'll listen to the episode.
And the rest of the Magnus Archives.
Let's see how the audio looks. It's really quiet. Okay, it's not that quiet anymore, thanks to music.
Rusty Quill presents the Magnus Archives.
Oh, I love this series. Let's see how it looks in OBS. I better be able to hear it.
Episode 13.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm listening to myself.
Alone.
It's a voice actor. Okay, I'll listen to it on my phone and see if it works. Okay, right now I'll do it. Okay, fine. I'll set up my notes for this episode. It's Mag 12. Yeah, oh, 13. I'm insane. Oh, it was Mag 12. I kept saying Mag 11. I'm insane. Oh my god. This man is talking to a person. Jonathan Sims gets... Jonathan Sims gets some social interaction.
Yeah, well that's one way to put it. You need to get some better equipment.
Believe me, I have been trying. Still, recorder seems to work fine as a backup, and I can have it transcribed later. So for now, if you'd be so kind...
You're serious? You actually want me to tell my story into that rattling piece of junk? I
So
see why no
mean.
one takes you guys seriously.
You're under no
Yo.
obligation to speak to us.
No, I guess I'm just desperate. The last paranormal investigator I went to laughed at me when I suggested talking to you. Still, I
Do
guess I'm
the Magnus Archives have a reputation among paranormal investigators?
From where we left off?
Probably best to start over. Name, date, subject, etc. I'm not optimistic that any of the previous recording will be salvageable.
Fine.
Oh,
My name
did
is
it
Naomi
again.
Hearn, and I'm making a statement about the events following the
because
funeral of my
real
fiancé.
recordings get foopity-fooped on
The
technology.
date is the 13th of January.
Sorry, I wasn't listening.
I'm not optimistic that any of the previous recording will be
So
salvageable.
sorry.
Fine. My name is Naomi Hearn, and I'm making a statement about the events following the funeral of my fiancé, Evan Lucas. The date is the 13th of January 2016.
Oh yeah, that's the number.
To be honest, I'm not even sure I should be here. What happened was weird, and alright, I can't think of a rational explanation for it, but I was distraught. I still am. I should go. I probably just imagined the whole thing. He's gone, and that's all there is to it.
Do not gaslight yourself.
It might all be in your head. Though there is the matter of the stone.
That could be... Well,
Nothing.
I don't know
A piece of a gravestone.
what to think.
I believe it was a piece of a gravestone.
Wait, where are you going?
I was going to give you some privacy while you make your statement.
Okay, it's just... Could you stay, please? I don't want to be alone.
Very well. Let's start from the beginning.
All right. I guess the beginning would be when I met Evan. I've never really been the social type. I've always been more comfortable alone, you know. My father died when I was 5 years old, and my mother spent so much time working to keep us fed that I hardly ever saw her. I wasn't bullied in school or anything like
I'm really
that.
curious. I missed
I mean-
something. I'm really curious.
Wait, where are you going?
I was going to give you some
She asked for him to
privacy while you
stay.
make your statement.
Okay, it's just... Could you stay, please?
Yeah, okay, that's what happened. I was too focused on my notes.
Let's start from the beginning.
Oh, I don't want to be alone. Episode title
I
alone.
guess the beginning would be when I met Evan. I've never really been the social type. I've always been more comfortable alone, you know. My father died when I was 5
More
years
comfortable
old.
alone.
My mother spent so much time in this cozy. I've always just been happier alone. Well, maybe happier isn't quite the right word. I did get a bit lonely sometimes. I'd hear laughter coming from other rooms in my building, or see a group of friends talking in the sun outside, and
It's annoying.
maybe
Maybe I should turn off the
I'd wish I had
noises.
something like that, but it never really bothered me. I knew my own company and was comfortable with it. I didn't need other people, and they certainly didn't need me. The only person who ever really seemed to worry about it was Pastor David. He worked in the chaplaincy, and I saw him occasionally when work or stress was getting
Pastor
to me.
David.
My mum's a Methodist, and I felt more comfortable talking to him than any of the secular counsellors. He used to tell me it wasn't natural for people to live in isolation, that we were creatures of community by nature. I remember he always used to say that he was worried I'd get lost. Back then I didn't know what he meant. I think I do now, though. Anyway, the point is that when I graduated 3 years ago, I left Leeds with a first in chemistry and no real friends to speak of. And that was fine by me. I got a job as a science technician down in Woking. It didn't pay well, and the children were a thick, entitled lot, but it was enough to live on and kept me close enough to London that I could apply for the various lab jobs that I actually wanted. It was interviewing for one of these where I met Evan. He was going for the same position as I was, lab assistant in one of the UCL biochemistry departments. He got the job in the end, but I didn't care. He was so unlike anyone I'd ever met before. He started talking to me before the interview,
God.
and I amazed myself by actually talking back. When he asked me questions, I didn't feel uneasy or worried
Romance.
about my answers. I just found myself telling this stranger all about myself, without any self-consciousness at all.
Is this a natural thing,
When he
or
was
is this
called
a
in for his
strange
interview,
thing?
I actually felt a pang of loss, like nothing I've known before. All for a stranger who I'd barely met 10 minutes ago. When I came out of the building after my own,
Pang of
somewhat
loss.
disastrous interview, and saw him standing there waiting for me, I don't think I've ever been happier than in that moment. We went
Oh
out,
god,
and
this is looking
dating
gross.
gradually turned into living together. I'd had 2 boyfriends in the past, both short-lived relationships that ended abruptly. In both cases, they said it was because they never really felt like I wanted them around, and looking back, that was kind of true. With
Epic.
Evan, it was different. It never seemed like his being there stopped me being myself or crossed into spaces that I saw as my own. Everything about being with him felt so natural that when he told me he loved me, it only came as a surprise to realise that we hadn't said it already. He had friends as well.
That's nice.
Plenty of friends. How could he not? And he would take me out to meet them when I wanted to, and when I didn't, he let me be. After a year with him, I actually had what could perhaps be called a social life. And more than that, I didn't hate it. I always used to roll my eyes at people who said that their loved ones completed them. But I honestly can't think of any other way to describe how it felt to be with Evan. I proposed to him after only 2 years, and he said yes. I'll skip over the bit where he dies. It's only been a year, and I don't want to spend an hour crying into your crappy tape player. Congenital, they said. Some problem with his heart. Always been there, but never diagnosed. No warning. 1 in a million chance. Blah, blah, blah. He was gone, just gone, and I was alone again. There was no one I could talk to about it. All my friends had been his friends, and once he was gone, it didn't feel right to see them. I know I'm sure they wouldn't have minded. They would have said that they were my friends too, but I could never bring myself to try. It felt more comfortable, more familiar to be alone. As though Evan had just been some...
No, she
wonderful
doesn't
thing
want to
that
be
I was now
alone.
waking up from.
Life sucks.
I don't remember the week between his death and the funeral. I'm sure it must have happened, but I don't have any memory of it at all.
It's probably
Leaving
just a
the
lost
hospital,
thing.
the next thing that is properly clear
Not
in my
a
mind is walking
scary,
into that
spooky
big,
thing.
austere house. I don't remember where it was. Somewhere in Kent, I think. And I must have been given the address by someone in Evan's family who had organised the funeral. It was strange. Evan never really talked about his family. He said he wasn't on good terms with them because they were very religious and always had been. I'd
Religious.
never met or visited them, or even been told their names, as far as I remember. But they must have known me enough to invite me.
I'm glad this guy
as I
stayed
thought
away
I
from
ended
his
up at the
family.
right place.
Oh god, that's not...
Just as well they took
That's
on
very
responsibility
spooky.
for the funeral. I was in no fit state to organise anything. The house was very large and very old. It had a high gate separating it from the main road, which has the name Moorland House carved into the stone of the gatepost. I drove there alone, my old second-hand
Oh, God.
Vauxhall Astra complaining all the way. You
This is
remember
bad.
that storm that hit at the end of last March? Well,
Oh
I
god.
hardly noticed it. Thinking back, I really shouldn't have been driving at all, but at the time it barely registered. The trees were bending ominously when I finally parked at Moorland House, and I immediately lost the only respectable hat that I owned to the wind. Evan had once
Rip
told me
hat.
that his family had a lot of money, and looking at this place, I realised why the funeral was being held there. I
Well, if
could
his last
see
name
on
is
the
what I think
side
it is, then...
see a
I swear I need to look it up.
mausoleum,
Okay, shut up.
the
Ah,
last
no,
resting
shut up,
place
shut
of
up.
Evan's ancestors,
No,
and soon,
I'm gonna lose
the
Tetris.
rest of Evan himself. This thought set me crying again, and it was
Okay,
in
sorry.
that state, weeping, windswept, and soaked through from the rain that I saw the door of a storm that hit at the end of last March.
Okay.
Well, I hardly noticed it. Thinking back, I really shouldn't have been driving at all, but at the time it barely registered.
His last name.
The trees were bending ominously when I finally parked at Moorland House.
Evan
and I immediately
Lucas.
lost the only respectable hat that I owned to the wind. Evan had once told me that his family had a
Was
lot
it?
of money, and looking at this place, I realised why the funeral was being held there. I could see round the side what appeared to be a well-kept mausoleum, the last resting place of Evan's ancestors.
Well, I did not read the spoiler part at the bottom. I was not reading it, I swear.
Evan himself.
Okay, I'm sorry. I did not... I scrolled down, but I swear I did not even take a peek down. I was reading the post statement. Lucas guy. This episode was super funny. Mag 100. I love Mag 100. Oh my god. Protective of his people. People! I mean, in the end, the only person you have is yourself. I think... I'm just looking to see if the name of this entity was mentioned in this episode 100, because I've obviously seen it before. I feel like I talked about it. I looked up... I swear I just like clicked on, like, I don't know if it was this guy's profile or the Lucas family profile or something on the wiki. But oh god, because of this episode, I just remembered, this is a good introductory episode to an entity. Cause I know the name. I'm a spoiler. I've been spoiled. I hate myself. But the Lonely. I've heard it before. I haven't heard it. I've read it accidentally. Also, you know what's fucking awful? The Rusty Quill YouTube channel has playlists for Magnus Archives episodes for all of the entities. And I'm like, I was subscribing to channels on my YouTube account, like my YouTube channel account, that like are for things that I've reacted to or like played on my channel. So I was looking around on the channel just a bit, and I see like boom, like 10 entity names that I've never seen before. I've forgotten most of them, thankfully, but I forgot the Lonely too. I definitely forgot it, but this episode reminded me very heavily because of all of the implications of like what she's saying. There's like the thing she says with her. Okay, I'll just talk about it freely because I basically know at this point all the connections I'm making. Oh my god. Her husband, I think it was fiance, because she proposed, but did they get married? I'm insane. Fiance. Oh, they never got to get married. It's sad. I think he seemed like an okay guy, because he was trying to distance himself from his family, which is always a good sign when your family is one of these creepy entity families. But he seemed to be an okay guy, but the way she initially described him was a little strange, because she was like, usually I like being alone, but when this guy was good company. And when he left, I felt a pang of loss, like feeling lonely. Lonely. That is the moment that I remember that name. I was like feeling lonely. I was like, I got a memory flashback. I was like, my lord. But yeah, that could have been an effect of just his connection with his entity because of his family, or it's just an implication, or it's just I'd like to believe that these people were in love, truly, which I believe they were, because he seemed like a nice guy, but there was just some leftover entity wackiness. But yeah, as that. And what, like, memory loss stuff, like people getting people to go places without them remembering. Like, not remembering why you showed up to a place. Interesting.
This thought set me crying again.
keep remissing what her thought was, even though it's very emotionally resonant, probably.
Appeared to be a well-kept mausoleum, the last resting place of Evan's ancestors, and soon, I guessed, of Evan himself.
Oh God.
This thought set me crying again, and it was in that state, weeping, windswept and soaked through from
Oh
the
God.
rain, that I saw the door open. I don't know what I expected from Evan's father. I knew he couldn't be anything like the innocent, charming man I'd fallen in love with, but the hard-faced stranger that confronted me on the doorstep still came as a shock. It was like looking at Evan,
Oh
but
God, I
as if
should have just
age
placed
had
it you.
drained all the joy and affection from him.
Evan, good guy
I
confirmed.
started to introduce myself, but he just shook his head and pointed inside, to a door down the corridor behind him, and spoke the only words he ever said to me. He said, "My son is in there. He is dead." And then he turned and walked away, leaving me shaken, with no option but to follow him inside. The house was full of people I didn't know.
Oh God, what
None
the
of the
heck?
lovely, welcoming faces I'd come to know from Evan's friends could be seen among the dour figures of his family.
That was not on purpose.
Each wore the same
Oh,
hard
God.
expression as his father,
I'm
and I
failing.
might have been imagining
I'm paying attention.
but I could have sworn that when they looked at me, their eyes were full of something dark. Anger, maybe? Blame? God knows I felt guilty enough about his death, though I have no idea why.
Did he die because he was with you?
Or to
I
each
wasn't
other.
lonely,
And
so
the
I
house
died.
was so quiet and still that at times it seemed like I could hardly breathe under the weight of the silence.
Oh God, I'm bad at Tetris.
Finally I came to the room where he was laid out. Evan, the man I was going to marry, was lying there in a shining oak casket that seemed too big for him somehow. The coffin was open, and I could see him, dressed in a perfectly tailored black suit. I realised I had never seen him wear a suit before. Like everything else in his death, it seemed utterly alien to the life that he had created for himself.
He tried to escape.
I remember going to my father's
Let me outta
funeral
here.
when I was very young. I remember seeing him
Oh,
lying
God.
there after the undertakers had done their business. My father had looked serene, peaceful, like he had calmly accepted the reality of his passing. It had comforted me as a child, though it had done little to blunt the acute sense of loss that I felt. There was none of that in Evan's face. In death, he seemed to have that same hardness and reproach that I saw on every one of the silent family that claimed him for their own. I don't know how long I stood there. It felt like seconds, but when I turned around, I almost shrieked to see dozens of black-clad figures stood there, staring at me.
Oh God.
The rest of the Lucas family was standing, waiting without a word, as though I was between them and their prey, which I suppose, in some ways, I was. Finally, an old man walked forward. He was small and hunched with age, his black suit hanging off his body like sagging flaps of skin. He spoke. "It's time for you to leave. The burial is a family affair. I'm sure you want to be alone."
To be alone.
I tried to
Waka
reply,
waka.
but the words stuck in my throat. They stood there waiting for me to
With the
respond
lonely
or to
people, by the
leave,
way,
and I
in case you
realised what I
didn't
found was
notice.
right. I did want to leave, to be alone. I didn't care where I went,
Oh,
but I had
God.
to go, to get away from that awful place with its strange, quiet watchers. I ran past them and out into the storm. Inside my car, I just turned on the engine and began to drive. I didn't know where I was going and could barely see a thing through my tears and the driving rain, but it didn't matter. Just as long as I kept going, as long as I didn't have to stop and think about what had just happened. Looking back, the
I'm
only thing
dead.
that surprises me about the crash is that it wasn't bad enough to kill me. When I became aware of myself again, I realised I was in the middle of a field, quite a distance from the road. The tracks behind me showed where I had
I'm gonna
skidded
take some
into the
notes.
dirt. Luckily, I hadn't hit anything or flipped over, but smoke billowed from the engine of my poor old Astra, and it was clear I wasn't going anywhere. It was dark, and the time on my dashboard said 12 minutes past 11. My phone said the same thing. I had arrived at Moorland House at 6 o'clock, as instructed. Had I been driving for hours, or had I spent even longer with Evan's body than I thought? I hadn't hit anything, so I couldn't have been knocked unconscious. Had I just been sitting there in my smoking car all that time? It didn't matter. The rain was beating down hard and I needed to get some help. I tried to call the emergency services or use the GPS on my phone, but the screen just said no service. I took a deep breath, trying to stifle panic, and got out the car. I was soaked through in less than 10 seconds as I struggled through the downpour towards the road. I could hear no sound except for the howling wind, and there were no headlights anywhere to be seen. Having no idea where I was, I made the decision to turn right and began to walk. I tried to use my phone again, but as I reached into my bag, I realised how much of the rain had soaked through. Pressing the power button only confirmed what I already suspected. My phone wasn't working. Anger washed over me, and all the bitterness and rage that had been building over the worst days of my life surged through me, and I threw the useless lump of plastic on the ground. The corner shattered as it hit the road, and then it bounced off the side and disappeared.
Oh my god, I'm missing stuff. I'm thinking too
I
bad.
suddenly felt very cold, and there were no headlights anywhere to be seen. Having no idea where I was, I made the decision to turn right and began to walk. I tried to use my phone again, but as I reached into my bag, I realised how much of the rain had soaked through. Pressing the power button only confirmed what I already suspected. My phone wasn't working. Anger washed over me, and all the bitterness and rage that had been building over the worst days of my life surged through me, and I threw the useless lump of plastic on the ground. The corner shattered as it hit the road, and then it bounced off the side and disappeared into the thick mud. I suddenly felt very cold as I stood there in the road, rain beating down, tears flowing freely and utterly alone. I kept walking, desperately hoping to see headlights in the distance, but there was nothing but darkness and the steady pounding of the rain on miles of empty countryside in every direction. I didn't have a watch, so without my phone, I have no idea how long I walked. The cold bit into my soaked funeral clothes, and I shivered, falling to my knees and just about giving up. No cars were coming, and I didn't have the first clue where I was going. It was then I noticed that the rain had stopped. Wiping the tears from my eyes, I saw that a fog had gathered around me, and I could no longer see more than a few feet in front of me. I kept walking, though, as the clinging mist made me feel somehow even colder. The fog seemed to follow me as I went, and seemed to swirl around with a strange, deliberate motion. You'll probably think me an idiot, but it felt almost malicious. I don't know what it wanted, but somehow I was sure it wanted something. There was no presence to it, though. It wasn't as though another person was there. It made me feel utterly forsaken. I started to run, following as much of the road as I could see, in the hopes of getting to the other side, but there seemed to be no end to it. I don't know exactly when the hard tarmac
Spell.
became dirt and grass, but I realised after a few minutes that I had strayed off the path. I tried to backtrack, but it was gone. All that remained was the fog and the skeletal outlines of half-glimpsed
Oh,
trees.
escape can pause. Okay.
The dark lines of them bent away from me at harsh angles. But if I tried to approach them, then rather than becoming clearer, the trees would disappear back into the hazy night and I would lose them. Kneeling down, I was surprised to realise that the ground I was now standing on was not wet. The hard, packed earth was damp from the creeping mist, but it did not appear to have been rained on. The despair I felt was quickly turning into fear, and I kept moving forward, further into the fog. I realised afterwards that the night should have been far too dark to see the fog. There were no lights there to show it, and the moon had been shrouded in storm clouds all night. But despite this, I could clearly see it. Shifting, slate grey and smelling of nothing at all. As I walked, I saw more shapes nearby. Dark slabs of stone,